What set the group apart was the style in which they were presented. This media-savvy approach.
Patriot Front marched
A
through the
group
city
of
of
200
Philadelphia
men affiliated with the
because
group
this
Patriot Front.
Patriot Front marched through the heart of
Patriot Front.
In this episode, Media to Rise has been granted exclusive access to go behind the scenes with the new style nationalist organization, Patriot Front. Although they have been around a little less than 4 years, the organization has grown rapidly, helping to redefine what it means to be a nationalist in modern America.
So we're out here in Pennsylvania. We've been invited out to a private event put on by Patriot Front. We just got through the first security checkpoint. We're now waiting in line to get into the campsite. We've been told that there's going to be a whole lot going on this weekend. Things like training, drilling, speeches, seminars, and they've given Media to Rise the all-exclusive to come and document what really goes on at nationalist events in America. We're going to be talking to some of the members and also the leader of Patriot Front. So let's check it out. Let's see what these guys are really up to.
As we went around the camp, we heard talk of some common themes: brotherhood, activism, and why they joined. So we wanted to let the members explain these topics in their own words.
You won't find it anywhere else in life. The connection I have with my brothers here, and I've never found it anywhere before. I meet guys all the time who I've never met before, who are from across the country, and I talk to them for 5 minutes, and it's like you're talking to someone you've known your whole life, like a long-lost brother. And activism is what creates that environment. It creates an environment of discipline, and it creates an environment that allows the ideals, for us to live those ideals, and not just say them. It allows us, if we call ourselves nationalists, we need to put our ideals forward into action. A nationalism is an action-based ideology.
And how long have you been involved with Patriot?
Almost 2 years now, and I became a nationalist way back in 2016, and I did nothing for years, and I was totally isolated. And after a while, I didn't know about Patriot Front, and then I discovered it, and 2 weeks later, I'm walking around the city, and I see his stickers, and I'm like, man, I'm not alone. Like, there's other guys out here. Like, I have to do something. I gotta go meet these guys. Like, I gotta make some friends.
So stickering works, activism works.
Yeah.
That's why you're here. How long have you been a member of Patriot Front?
I've been a member of Patriot Front for going on almost 3 years.
So action kind of being the main thing of, really making it appealing to joining. Why do you think activism is so important? Why activism?
Well, activism is something that I think it takes people some time to appreciate the value of. It's something that I've met a lot of people throughout the movement that don't necessarily, they've been in for a long time, they don't necessarily understand what activism really is. It's more than just putting up a sticker. It's more than just some paint or like a poster with glue. The act of going out and doing it requires courage. You can sit home and read Spengler for the 8th time. That's easy. But if you do that long term, you're going to pay a price. Your people are going to pay a price because you weren't there to push back on the people that were pushing them down. So that one day when you have a son, you can show him how to be courageous. You don't have to look him in the eye and say, I was too afraid to put a sticker up for you, buddy. Sorry, you have to live in this world now.
You see, in this world, there's two kinds of people, my friend. Those with loaded guns and those who dig.
And we have some of your Utah members here. Just going left to right, how long have you guys been involved with Patriot Front?
Probably about 8-9 months. Just barely over a year.
Less than a year.
2 years.
3 months.
And I was a little skeptical at first, you know, just kind of, I was really the only guy in my network. And I didn't know exactly who I could trust, who I didn't. I was new to this whole movement. You know, PF is the only experience I've ever had. So we're a part of something greater. We want to be active. We want to be proactive in our approach. We want to make the nation, right? We're trying to change the way people think. And that is by, you know, putting out, you know, what we believe. So that's how we've gotten to know each other, and now we're best friends, every single one of us here. If your nation is in turmoil, why aren't you standing?
After a while of talking to PF members, one young man spoke about his personal life before joining the group. He brought up the common topics of aimlessness and addiction that have been plaguing the white youth for years, resulting in thousands of deaths.
I was sort of a runaway in Salt Lake City for a bit, and I was for about a year stuck in the whole turmoil of drug addicts and trying to make my way in the world. And the person who recruited me into Patriot Front saved me from living in an apartment with a crack cocaine addict. Before that, I was literally just fighting for dear life, clawing for my own survival, and now I'm able to put all that energy into doing something for somebody else, you know, and to actually be able to think about 10 years in the future rather than just next week. What am I going to eat next week? You know?
Being with these boys brings hope, for sure. Coming out from being raised with a bunch of degenerates, being a degenerate myself, you know, you didn't really have anything higher to reach for, and then you meet some like-minded fellows that see the same things you do.
No matter what, you know, thing comes up in my life, I feel like I have, you know, a safety net. Wherever in the country, if I end up somewhere stuck in the country that I don't know, I can reach out to the local Patriot Front network and be quite literally saved.
Yeah, and in my experience, you know, I've come across, my own blood has abandoned me for my ideals and what I believe, and these men have not. They've stuck with me, you know. So they are my family.
That's why we call each other brothers.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Earlier today, I was asking for, you know, specific members that we could ask some questions with, and you were constantly suggested to me. I heard you have a really interesting story of how you got involved with Patriot Front.
I've been an active member of Patriot Front for about 3.5 years.
Okay.
But it goes a little further back than that. My father was one of the founding members of Patriot Front. Patriot Front has always kind of been, since its inception, like an active force in my life even before I joined.
What kind of made you realize that you wanted to, you know, carry the torch and follow in his footsteps?
It was always, I've always been very close to my father, so me joining outright was kind of an inevitability. You know, I have a close relationship with him, so I want to be like him. I want to do the things he did. As he got older and he incurred a pretty serious injury, and things happened that led to him leaving the organization. So after he left, that's when I felt I should really follow in my father's footsteps and take this seriously. And 2 of my brothers have become members of Patriot Front as well. And you'll hear a lot of guys like they joined to serve a greater purpose and kind of get away from like maybe broken families or families who didn't take the world seriously. But for me, it's like Patriot Front has always kind of been ingrained in my personal family, right? This isn't me leaving my personal life to do something greater. This is like part of my personal life, is this greater thing I'm trying to follow.
The founder of Patriot Front, Thomas Russo, then held an awards ceremony, handing out honors to members that earned it. We were told this provided brotherly competition and a morale boost amongst the guys. This is something we found unique within Patriot Front that we didn't see in other organizations.
It is this spirit of positivity, honesty, and exemplary integrity that causes some of us to truly stand out among our peers. This man has met me in the drilling grounds of remote foothills in the Rockies, to the ice-packed shores of the Great Lakes, beneath the trees of the Appalachians and bridges over the Potomac. and now to our greatest extent yet, the coast of the Atlantic, or about as close as I've ever been. He is among the few of our organization who have given so much and asked so little. Let his example encourage us all to hold untarnished our commitment to our ideals wherever it takes us and whatever we are to endure as it does. The white arrow for integrity and vigilance. We are grateful for the work of all of our activists, but substantial sacrifice is rare. Thankfully so, we do not all of us face such hardships as he has. This activist has the unfortunate yet distinguished quality of being the only man, besides myself I believe, to see the inside of a jail cell and an intensive care unit while bearing the nation's cause. Such trials are not something I would ask of anyone here. How could I? Lying dormant in our blood is the power to overcome. This man has touched upon that with the strength to overcome these matters arrayed against him, to fulfill his duty to his brothers, his nation, his ideal. Thank you.
The revolutionary cannot sit still. The revolutionary needs to do something. We want the guys who are going to be active. We don't want guys who feel like activism is something beneath them or that it's a losing battle, because that's the sort of demoralization that spreads like a disease.
What is kind of like the goal and the purpose of us gathering here today?
This is a demonstration of everything that we've created here. We are first and foremost a collective, a brotherhood, and this is a demonstration of how far our brotherhood has come, how disciplined every single activist is, how fit every single activist is, spiritually, mentally, and physically. And us coming out here in the streets is showing to the like-minded that we are here, that there is a brotherhood, and it shows to our opposition. We're not going anywhere. No matter what they try to do, we're going to do our demonstrations, we're going to be here, and we're not going anywhere. And all these other non-activist groups who just talk about nothing really and think they're getting somewhere, but really they're taking the easy way out because it's easy. We should be looking for struggle and embrace that. If we are calling ourselves nationalists, we are looking for struggle for our national cause. And if you don't embrace it, you're not a nationalist, you're not of the nation's cause.
We're all in this together.
Would you say to someone who is watching this that's scared?
Yes. I would say you have to overcome those fears. Don't be afraid, get involved, because it is your duty, if you believe your people and your country are under threat, to do something about it.
When our identity was being denied, Americans did not, celebrate. They didn't sit around with hot dogs and go on fishing boats and set off little fireworks in their backyard, right? That would be insulting. And I think today we need to come to a realization of what our holidays are actually about. Because in times of tranquility and prosperity, these holidays can be times of celebration for what you have. But we aren't in those times, so these days need to be calls to action.
In April of 1776, the first shots of the American Revolution rang out, but the seeds of revolt were sown long before any armed conflict took place, with small bands of men organizing in secret to share their dissent and carrying out public acts of disobedience to espouse ideas that could land them in the gallows. At this time, over half the population did not want to get involved with either side, many even branding these patriots nothing more than radicals and traitors. But as always, fate is decided by the determined, and on July 4th, 1776, representatives from every state gathered in Philadelphia and ratified the Declaration of Independence. Although the war is long over, with its soldiers buried, the spirit of revolution is coming alive once again with its founders' sons.
So I think the number one question everyone wants to know is why you chose Philadelphia for this event.
This morning we begin with the deadly distinction for Philadelphia. The number of homicides in the city now tops Chicago, a city which is no stranger to violence.
I'm gonna shoot them niggas the fuck up. Fuck America!
Shootings in Philadelphia this year, which is up 42% from this time last year.
Despite the danger, the leader of Patriot Front explained to us the historical significance and why it was important to demonstrate in the city of Philadelphia on that day.
And we intended to march through the hallowed grounds of Independence Hall and draw a comparison between the struggles of the past and the struggles of the present, and as we would have it, the struggle of the future.
This is game time, boys. Let's have a seriousness, please. Memeing, jokes, fucking leave that outside.
Roger that, taking right, over.
Use the left lane to turn right onto North 22nd Street.
As we rode in the back of the truck, the mood was tense amongst the guys. Team leaders were issuing out orders and going over what they drilled earlier at camp in preparation for whatever might come.
Go ahead, go back over that way. Yellow. Yellow. Red.
Go, go, go!
Alright, so it's been a couple days since the march, and we're already starting to see a media hellstorm of a lot of lies about what actually happened at the march. So I just want to kind of recap of what actually happened and get your side of the story of what happened at the Philadelphia march.
Our march did proceed from the museum to City Hall to Independence Hall, and we managed to cross the entirety of downtown, and we had no qualms of being in the city for the length of time we were, which was well over an hour, I would say.
So the beginning of the march was cool and calm, and everything was going fine, just as planned.
Everything was pretty normal, pretty expected, everything we've dealt with prior.
We are home!
We had every knowledge that the police department was, of course, going to notice and respond to our actions, as they almost always do, usually a little bit after they begin.
What?
Why are you calling the police?
Yeah.
What wrong is being done? And it wasn't until we got to the City Hall is when things really started to get maybe a little wild.
I wish you would.
Individual in a gray shirt who, you know, again, he approached us, he made a conscious decision to attack the march, and he set down his backpack.
And this is the individual that said that we have quoted on film saying, "I will kill you."
I will kill you!
And, you know, to bang, bang, kill us. And
get the fuck out!
Threw himself into the march and was simply pushed back out. He was very unsuccessful. Nobody was destroyed. Nobody was injured. There were 100 men bearing flags, and not a single one of them had a finger laid upon them. Not a single one of them ever had to vary his course because of any outside forces or any agitators, anything like that. Their march was entirely unaffected because of the exemplary restraint and professional conduct of our shield bearers.
We see with our hate! Reclaim America! Reclaim America! Reclaim America!
We are historical men. We are the men that we read about. And we are the men that our grandchildren will read about when they look up to their forefathers. We are surrounded by people who will never be remembered by their own children. But their grandchildren will look up to us because we are the ones forging a nation. We are the ones doing this. and making our dreams a reality. And I engage in conversation with so many people who simply do not understand what they're missing. They will die and be forgotten. No one will ever forget what you are doing. Not your brothers, not your family, and not your children and their children and their children. What we are doing is immortal. Let these words enter you truly. And if you ever think that you have given enough, perhaps you will gaze sideways and you will see someone who has given everything. Sacrifice, sacrifice, sacrifice. There's always more you can give, and what you put in is what you get out of this organization.
I'm MP advised. We have about 250 people. The related team southbound on 3rd from Chestnut.
After marching around the gritty streets of Philly and finishing the planned route, it was time to wrap up the demonstration and head back to the designated pickup spot where trucks are already waiting.
Down the parking lot, they're currently moving 3 rental vehicles, the 10K trucks.
So they're leaving?
Willie made, I'm not sure of that, they're starting to load up.
So they really Nazis?
No, they white, they
It
white.
was at this point a group of protesters arrived as they were loading on the trucks to leave. Despite the aggression shown by them, PF members were instructed not to engage. Although the scene might have looked chaotic, the reality was just some threats, pushing, and 3 or 4 punches being thrown against the plexiglass shields. Although they all managed to load up and drive off unscathed, this was not the end of their harassment.
One out of the 3 trucks is northbound Delaware Ave. I'm going to follow that one, have the rest of the officers just follow these trucks and see where they go for now. Alright, I'm going to have one stop.
Alright, thanks for everybody coming out.
Finally, after waiting the whole night for an opportunity to catch any sort of slip-up from the PF members and finding none, the police had to resort to a stop-and-frisk traffic stop. Despite their best efforts, no arrests were made.
You're training, so not to talk to us.
And when nobody talked, everybody walked. They ordered everyone off the trucks and tried to even get them to go on foot through Philly's most ghetto areas that even those police themselves would not go through without armed tobacco. After the police vacated, thinking they had left them stranded in hostile territory, the group was able to reform and organize their own way out of the city.
Unfortunately, we're going through one of the most dangerous parts of Philly that is a little bit irate at us right now. So we cannot go on foot. The only resolve that we have right now is that we stay put here, and that anybody who has access to a vehicle at the exchange to go there, pick up as many vehicles as we can, drive back here and get more. Now I need to see a show of hands of how many people have a vehicle at the exchange and have their keys.
I do.
1, 2, everybody who has that, go over here right now.
Vehicles. Drivers, go over there.
Drivers with keys right now.
So let's talk about Charlottesville.
Okay.
You were present at the event?
Yes, I was.
Do you see any similarities between Charlottesville and the Philadelphia March? More importantly, maybe some of the police traps that were set at both marches.
Your fellow Americans are being assaulted? No response? A man of courage.
Yes, I certainly see a lot of growth when it comes to the fact that we were in a similarly oppositional setting, and we had, police which were trying to pit us against residents and pedestrians and anybody they could get their hands on, so that we would be in the shadow of this maladjusted legal system, which could be turned into a weapon to silence us. But the defining variable, I think, is the activists. The variable is the communication, the organization, and the ability to prioritize safety while still having an objective of public showing, of still retaining the ability to tell our own story and to pursue our own message.
Would you say that America is currently in a revolutionary spirit?
I would say that revolutions take the form of their setting. Revolution, in my opinion, is a principle more than it is a tactic, which
necessitates a new philosophy. We not only seek to exchange the structures which guide modern social, philosophical, legal, and political conduct, but we seek to dig to the core beliefs, the foundation of why the government is legitimate, why it ought to be, and why it should be there at all. We recognize the need for organizing and the need for a structured society, but we don't go so far as legitimizing conventional parties and conventional dynamics, which can only yield conventional results, which are by their very nature opposed to the revolutionary consciousness that we are making every effort to promote, to instill, to inspire, and to forge ourselves into physical blood and bone representatives of.
Well, I back that up 100%. You know, I think you guys are setting the standard for the American nationalist scene, if you want to call it. Yes. You know, I met quite a bit of your members out at the event. A very fine example, and you know there was no armchair idealists. All I saw there was men of action and men that are, you know, really taking it to the public sphere and seeking to effect real change.
I was going to capture them on video, and it's triggering as a black person to see white supremacy.
Got a question? I'll answer. All whites are Nazis. Half of my grandparents and their friends died fighting Nazis.
Okay. This America.
Come on!
You niggas got smoke coming out the trucks and shit. This shit like a Call of Duty campaign out in there.